when I was very little, 2 years old or so, we had the crab broiler in Seaside, and my dad developed that menu, and it's the same menu that the Pixie Kitchen has. The crab broiler was rebuilt and sold to Mr. Daggett, and we then retained from Mr. Daggett, we retained the menu rights to, if he ever wanted to go back into business, in the restaurant business, we would have rights to use that menu. And then we moved to California and lived in California, and Dad was a contract, well, first he was a Fuller Brush man and sold so many Fuller Brush. On his first trip out, he sold, I don't remember how many, but I do remember that when all of the supplies came, we had to put them all in little white bags. And our whole dining room table, which was huge, the couch, the floor, my bed, were covered with little white bags. And he had to go deliver them all. And that was the last time he ever worked for Fuller Brush, because he just flat was never going to do that again, because it took Mother and I and my brother and all of us trying to put all these little bags together, and then he had to find all those houses and everything again. So that wasn't fun. So then he bought a tractor and became a landscaper. He got a landscaper's license and became a landscaper, probably because he knew Rudy Hardman, who was a builder, a developer in California, Riverside, California. And he was a very good developer and a very well-known developer, and was a friend right up until Dad died. And he became where he would design front yards and things like that as a landscaper, and had a couple of people that worked for him, and he liked that. We lived on a farm. I had a horse and chickens and rabbits and dogs and cats and all kinds of
Why don't
things.
you share about when he was doing the hair rinse?
Oh,
And
yeah.
he got in an airplane in
So,
San Francisco?
Yeah, so that was my younger days. And then when I was 10, Dad decided that he was going to change careers, and he went to work for Noreen Hair Rinse Company, who sold hair rinse at Woolworths and Newberry's. And so he traveled around to all the Newberry's and stuff around, I don't know what his territory was, but he had to fly on an airplane. Well, he didn't like flying on airplanes. He was afraid to fly on airplanes. So, and he always wore cotton in his ears so he couldn't hear the plane. And so he was flying from San Francisco to Denver, and he did not know the plane was going to stop in Oakland. So they're taking off, and it says fasten your seat belts, and they're taking off, and all of a sudden the plane's going right back down again. And it's just going down, 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 and Dad's thinking this is the end of his life, you know. So he's screaming and hollering, telling him we're crashing, he just threw a fit. He got off the plane in Oakland and never got on another one for quite a few years. He quit, he called and quit his job with Noreen Rinse Company, and he then I don't know how he got home. He must have bought a car or taken a bus or something. He got back to Denver, where actually we lived in Derby, which at that time was a little town outside of Denver, in a 30-foot Airstream trailer, the four of us. And from there he decided, you know, his parents were getting older, maybe he should move back to Dundee, Newburgh area, so he'd be closer to them. Well, they lived another 20 years, you know, so he ended up buying Pixie Kitchen out of that deal when we came back to the Oregon coast, and bought Pixie Kitchen, and then we could always stop in Dundee on the way in and the way back from Portland when we went in to get supplies every week, because in those days there wasn't a restaurant supply house in Lincoln City, of course. So that's kind of what I remember of the jobs that he had. Before that, he was not a hairdresser, but he owned a beauty parlor, and my mother was the beautician, and they did that when they first got married.